What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Here, guys, Derek and Cody with you as always. And today we're continuing our series, guys, with a breakdown of the Indianapolis Colts tight end room. Probably one of the most exciting groups amongst all of Colts fans, led way by the potential future phenom of the group in tight end Jelani Woods and company moving forward. There was a lot of buzz, Cody, about this tight end group going into last season. And then, it just seems to only be getting greater now that Jelani Woods has taken over and the Colts have continued to fill this tight end group with a lot of young talent. Give me a rundown here of this tight end group and what it looked like last year.
Yeah, so last year, I don't really feel like you lost anybody and from what you had last year. This tight end room, obviously, you thought Mo Alley Cox was going to potentially, do something. He got that extension. Really turned out to be the third tight end in this room when it was all said and done, right? You mentioned Jelani Woods. When he got the ball, I thought he was phenomenal. It seemed like about every time he got the ball thrown to him, he made a play. So he's definitely a guy that you're looking to get more run this year. Hopefully he gets more targets this year because when he does, he's going to definitely has the potential to do some really good things and be a really, big threat. Honestly, in both ways, like just in terms of what he can do in the physical game and also just the playmaking side as well. He's just that kind of specimen out there. I think he was a 10 out of 10 RAS score as well. So just an athletic freak who can move. And I think he can do a lot with them, just getting him in motion, just getting him open. He can do a lot for you. And then you have some other guys in this tight end room, like Kylan Granson, a guy that we don't talk about a lot, but he is a really good tight end when it comes to yards after the catch, right? He's a guy that can really do a lot. He can stretch a defense in certain ways. He's a little bit more of a unique skill set for a tight end compared to what this room has. And so I think if he gets more targets, he's going to make more plays. He wasn't necessarily spectacular last year, but he was a guy that I felt like every time he got targeted, he made a solid play. He had a couple plays per game where he would make a catch or two and he would move the chains, right? So he's a guy that I'm looking forward to seeing how he progresses and how the Colts are able to utilize him in this system. And then you just got a bunch of other guys. I mentioned, Mo Alley Cox. We'll see kind of what his role is. You did draft Will Mallory as well, so I don't know what his role is going to be, more of that receiving guy. Andrew Ogletree from last year, before he got injured in training camp. Derek, he was a guy that was lighting it up, and people were even, projecting him ahead of where Jelani Woods was at that time. Now, obviously, it's a little bit different, this time around, but he can get back to full strength. Does he have something potentially could be that third tight end? So there's a lot of guys in here. I could keep talking about other guys, but all that to say, I think we kind of know who 1 and 2 are, but it's going to be interesting to see 3 and potentially 4. How does that shake out? How does this tight end room shake out? Because I think there's some multiple ways that this could go, and I'm intrigued to see which direction it does indeed go to.
Yeah, this is like I said, very exciting group here. And, I think the funny thing is about all of it, Cody, is we thought that Mo Alley Cox was going to be a guy that was either going to get traded or going to get cut this year because there's so many guys in this group that it's hard to keep up. Jelani Woods is clearly now, like everyone knows, Jelani Woods has the highest upside and will be the face of this franchise going forward at the tight end group. And then, you had Kylan Granson in there, albeit was mostly a, Frank Reich pick there, but Kylan Granson has continuously gotten better every single year and has gotten more efficient in the offense and seems like the kind of player that a guy like Shane Steichen could really utilize. And then you talk about Andrew Ogletree, who last training camp was the best tight end in the whole team during training camp. He had people's heads turning. They were like, is Ogletree going to beat out Jelani Woods for the last tight end spot on this roster because people were starting to question that. And then, you just got Will Mallory, who you just drafted. What's his status going to look like? And then, of course, you brought in Pharaoh Brown this last offseason from Cleveland. He's had a lot of minutes in this league. It's just hard to sit back and just imagine that. It's hard to believe this unit is so deep, and it's hard to just know what's gonna be of this unit with Shane Steichen. I don't know how they're gonna utilize it, but I mean, it seems to me like if it was up to me, I would end up having it to where Jelani is number one, Kylan's number two, and Mo would be number three. But I mean, from a personnel standpoint, I mean, Mo Alley Cox has to be. I mean, the move has to be Mo Alley Cox and Jelani Woods, multiple tight end sets at the goal line every single time in the red zone down the field because, I mean, it's hard to imagine a team being able to stop both a 6'6" guy who once played basketball and a 6'7" guy who is just virtually unstoppable in a one-on-one scenario. It's just like it seems like Steichen will be able to utilize those guys a lot more in those situations.
Right. And it's not that Mo can't play, right? Because we saw in that Tennessee game, he got targeted, he made plays. So,
Yeah.
like, it's not like Mo, it wasn't all his own fault, right? Like we've said with like the wide receivers and some other players as well, like it wasn't just the players' fault, right? The players have some part in it for sure. But like Mo just wasn't targeted. And I think if, you put him in this system like you're talking about, use him in goal line situations, and he can get back to, being a really good run blocker, I don't see a problem with having him be the number 3 tight end on the roster. Now, maybe you want to consider, cutting down that contract a little bit because you are paying him a decent amount. And if you're just going to pay him to really run block and, potentially be a little bit of a threat in the red zone, like maybe you do look to cut that down a little bit. But regardless of that, I do think he has an opportunity because, they've tapped into his potential a little bit, with that size, but I never felt like they did enough with Mo Alley Cox. So maybe the Colts look at it with Shane Steichen and they're like, hey, this guy's got the physical tools. Why not? Why not give him an opportunity, right? And if he's a number 3 tight end, that's a pretty solid number 3 tight end, I would say. So I would be totally fine with that. And then, yeah, I think you're right. The one thing I'm so interested in, the biggest unknown for me is Ogletree. Because if he can come back and he can be the number 3 tight end, I mean, I think honestly, Derek, that's probably a better case scenario just because he's younger and he's cheaper. But ultimately, I'm kind of good with whoever emerges as that number 3 tight end. Certainly one of the position groups during training camp in the preseason that I'm going to be watching, very closely to see who is that third guy. But regardless of who it is, it's going to be a really fun battle to watch. And there are a lot of different guys. And the Colts, the one thing the Colts do have at tight end is they have size. There's no question about that. So I'm going to be looking forward to that. And also, how many do the Colts carry, right? Because they have to make a decision with wide receivers, right? We just talked about the wide receivers, how they have a lot of different guys that are going to potentially be, trying to get only a few positions. So, like, do they carry more wide receivers? Do they carry more tight ends? It's going to be interesting. I don't really know which way they're going to go, but I think tight end certainly warrants a conversation about keeping 4. I don't know if they'll do that necessarily, but it's going to be fun because there's a lot of different resources and a lot of guys that have a prime opportunity here to snag that number 3 tight end position away and really emerge as that guy.
And I think that going forward, I think they are going to have 4 tight ends on this roster because you just look at what they really did. I see it. And, I loved your point from earlier with Jelani. I mean, it just seemed like every time Jelani touched the football, it just felt like great things happened every time, and that's something you really need from a player. I mean, it's the same feeling that Kansas City Chiefs fans get every time Travis Kelce touches football. Right? They're like, what is going to happen when Kelce gets this football? Because it's coming. It's going to happen. Is it going to be a touchdown? Is it going to be a first down? What is it? And that's the kind of feeling you get when Jelani Woods gets targeted. And the one thing they not only have is size, Cody, but they also have speed. I mean, we have to remember the speed of this unit. Jelani Woods is not only 6'7", but the dude can run a 4.6. I mean, that is fast for a dude that is 6'7" and 260 pounds and can move like that. I mean, that is just insanely fast. I mean, we talked about it. He's the most athletic tight end to ever come into the NFL. It's truly remarkable. And then, you look at guys like Kylan Granson. I mean, I know that he doesn't have top end speed, but he is a route runner. This is a guy that's a classic route running tight end. And Will Mallory, who was the fastest tight end of all the tight ends in the draft this year, ran a 4.5. So he also is a route runner that also has some high end speed to him. So this unit has quickly merged into a perfect blend, Cody, of size and speed, depending on what you need in the scenario. So there's a lot of different ways that Shane Steichen can use this to his advantage. I just hope that they actually know what they're able to do, because obviously Frank Reich didn't know about it. We want to keep giving him props and saying he was this offensive genius. Half the time, he didn't know how to utilize his wide receiver or his tight end, his skill position players. He didn't know. He wasn't quite as good at it as what some people had deemed. He did have some balls and knew how to run a fourth down play, but so does Shane Steichen, and Shane Steichen does it more efficiently than what Frank Reich used to do it. And we also have seen Shane Steichen's offenses be a lot more explosive, and having guys like Will Mallory and Jelani Woods being able to utilize their speed and their ability to get open. At the end of the day, I do wonder how Anthony Richardson's chemistry is going to be with all these guys. Clearly, we talk about their chemistry with the wide receivers all the time. We talk about their chemistry with Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, the chemistry with him and Shane Steichen. But we don't really talk a lot about, this tight end group. And, this is a very young tight end group for the most part. And I'm really hoping that these guys really start picking it up, because if they can get on the good side of Anthony Richardson might have a better rookie campaign, Cody, than what a lot of people realize.
That's why I think it'll be so critical, because a lot of these guys were, not at OTAs. They were injured or whatever reason. They weren't out there. So I think it's going to be critical for them in training camp to really start building that chemistry even further, in more of those live rep situations, so that when week one does come, if Anthony Richardson is your guy, then it's not as much of a transition and as much of a, getting to know each other as maybe it could be. So I'm really looking forward to them doing that, and hopefully they can start building that chemistry now in training camp. And then, when the season rolls, they can get going. So it'll be fun. You're right. It's definitely a unit that's very diverse and very young outside of really Mo. I mean, everybody's pretty 25 years old and younger, pretty much. Anybody of pretty much relevance is really young. So it's a unit that definitely can grow with Richardson as well. And they can have that chemistry for the next 5 to 10 to however many years. So that's definitely a great thing. You're pairing, a young quarterback with a lot of young skill talent, a lot of young tight end talent in this case. So gonna be fun to watch this group emerge and hopefully grow in a lot of ways this year. And we'll see how it shakes out. We'll see how many they keep, if they keep 3, if they keep 4, who those 3 and 4 are. That'll be fun to watch. And guys, let us know your thoughts on the tight end room. Is there a tight end you think that maybe we're not talking about, or maybe one you think will take the number 3 tight end position? Let us know those things in the comments below. But that will do it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate all your support. And as always, guys, go Colts.